So before I go into the story, I'll just explain that in the lead up to this particular incident, I had a number of strange attempted break-ins and occurrences, so much so that I had to install cameras with motion sensors on every entry and exit in my apartment, just so I could make sure no one was there when I got in at night. One of the first was encountering a man standing in my room when I walked in broad daylight. I had stuff go missing the week before, and my roommate said he had the sense he was being watched in there that week. So I'm on my way home from a night out, and I start going through my phone. I see I have a message on Tinder and check it out. The girl looks attractive, but I think she's a catfish because she sounds so eager to meet me, and I know that when something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So I get home and she sends me her address. I check it and it's literally a 5-minute walk. I'm drunk and it sounds appealing, even just the attention, but again, I don't believe her. So I say, video call me, and she surprisingly agrees. I see the call coming in and I'm not sure what to expect, but surprisingly, it's the person. She seems nice. She says she's high and wants to smoke and have some company, and I agree. Now I'm excited. Maybe I'll actually really hit it off with her and she lives a stone's throw away. So I have a shower, grab some liquor, and head over. So I'm on the way. I'm walking. As I'm nearing her place, I look across the street and through this archway that leads into the courtyard for this apartment block. At the end of the arched corridor, I see a man glance out at me, then pretend to look at his phone. I walk past, and I don't know why, but I'm sure it's to do with the paranoia I have been experiencing, but I stop and decide to walk back. As I come to the arch again, I see the guy's head peek out around the corner, and on making eye contact, he juts back rapidly. When I'm in full view of the arch tunnel again, the man is seemingly immersed in his phone again, and he starts walking around the corner and down the street. I stand there and look to see if he will look back. He doesn't, and I hear a girl's voice behind me. It's the girl, and she's like, "Hey, come on in." It feels like an episode of To Catch a Predator, but she's clearly in her early 30s, so I start to relax, but only briefly. We walk up a flight of steps to get to the apartment, but then she starts veering down a flight of steps and tells me she has a basement apartment. I follow her and am calm until I get to the living room. I don't know how to describe why. There was nothing there to make me feel nervous, but that was exactly it. It was so bare, just a sofa and a kitchen table, just the complete opposite of what I imagined. I've dated girls, and it just wasn't a girl's apartment. I don't know if that makes sense. So now she's like, "Come into my room," and I get this overwhelming sense of fear, like something telling me it's a trap. Don't do it. You're walking into a honey trap, but I try to tell myself I'm being paranoid and try to relax again. So I follow her to her room, and it's a tiny box room. There's a bed and an empty bedside drawer. Now, the thing that weirds me out the most is there's another door, which I can only assume leads to a bathroom. The door is closed, but there's a very obvious pool of water coming out from underneath the door, like something had overflowed but stopped. I'm about to ask, but I don't, as her hand cups and squeezes my crotch area, and I'm taken aback at how forward she starts to become. She kisses me while guiding my hand down the front of her sweats inside her underwear and whispers for me to take my clothes off. I start to open my shirt, and before I can, she is butt naked. She sits on the bed and starts opening and getting my pants down straight into giving me head. Sorry about the details, but I'm trying to explain, 1, her over-eagerness to get me naked, and 2, the overwhelming feeling she was trying to distract me or put me in a vulnerable position. Now she starts to lie back and pull me on top of her, kissing me and making over-the-top moaning noises. Then I can distinctly hear something outside the door, in the living room, That sound of like clothes rubbing against clothes when you're moving in a really quiet place, and footsteps, not many, but like someone is sneaking around. As we're kissing, she tells me my watch is catching her skin and could I take it off. I find this strange, but it gives me a chance to gather myself. I sit up and start to take it off. I ask her why there's water leaking out of the restroom. I don't know genuinely if she misheard me or was completely sidestepping my question, but she just answers, "Yes, I've water here," and grabs a bottle of water from the side of the bed. I don't re-question. I open the bottle and take a sip. I hear that clothes-on-clothes light footsteps movement again. I can feel there's someone right outside the door, and my heart starts to beat. I can also feel my lips starting to burn inexplicably. I think she can feel my uneasiness and starts to kiss the back of my neck, whispering for me to fuck her. Now, I can't tell you how much I wanted this to be real, not a setup, to believe this girl really wanted me, but even if she did really like me, she was way too eager. I say, "What time is it?" and grab my phone. I look at the message where she told me her address, and I memorize it. I open it and go to WhatsApp. I pretend to send an audio message. I say, "Hey guys, I'm at 123 Street, basement apartment." I can see the wide-eyed surprised look on her face. "I need one of you to come pick me up outside right away. I can't explain right now, but if you can't come, send someone to that apartment. If I'm not outside, then I'm in trouble, and call the cops." She pauses, stuck for words, and asks why I'm so paranoid. I ask her who's outside, and she doesn't deny that anyone is there, just says her friend, no explanation. I start to get dressed. I feel relieved, but also think I am overthinking this. I say bye, and she says see you later, and starts texting on her phone. I open the door. The room is darker than when we went through it first, but I can make out the silhouette of mostly everything. I don't see any other room, though, and wonder where the fuck her friend is, or why there is someone in that room. I have the jitters walking through the room. It's only a short trip, but I'm envisioning someone jumping out of nowhere and bludgeoning me with something. I get to the stairs. I go up. I rush to the door, can't figure out how to open it. I can feel someone coming behind me, up the stairs. My adrenaline has kicked in 100%. It's her. She goes and opens it. I say thank you, and I leave. I check my cameras before going into my apartment. No one has triggered them. I sit in the kitchen and wonder, was I being crazy? I go to my room and into bed and surprisingly get a call from her again, and she's being cool. She tells me to stop being so paranoid and come back. Now I'm actually half thinking about it, thinking I've been acting insane, but something just clicks, a theory I had been having that would make sense of this. I tell her I can't. She asks why, and I tell her that my roommate is on the phone to the cops. To stay the fuck away, I've cameras everywhere. She pauses and then says, which still gives me the creeps, "I know your roommate isn't home from work yet," and hangs up. So the weeks before this, as I explained, I had a few attempted break-ins. I always thought the roof because I'm on the top floor, but the cameras never caught anything. What I didn't understand was how they were getting in. The apartment next door to me, the only other one on that floor, was occupied by the landlord's brother. He has what I'm guessing is dementia or something similar. He kind of hoards and takes random things in and out every so often. I hadn't seen him in a while, but had heard movement in the apartment. I knew what was happening. It just all clicked. People were coming down the fire escape and in through his window. I think possibly staying there, stealing from him, using my Wi-Fi as I had the code left on the wall. I think that night they decided to rob me, knowing my roommate wouldn't be home until 4 at least, and someone watching me while I was out in the neighborhood. When they realized I was going home early, they tried to distract me. I told the landlord I thought people were going through the apartment. I don't know with the clutter in there, could you tell, but I know the window was unlocked and he stayed with an elderly lady on the second floor who looks after him. There hasn't been much activity since, so I hope this is the end of it. I didn't call the police because I wasn't sure if I was being crazy, but I knew deep down I wasn't. But even when I tell people, I can see they're like, okay. So this happened to me and my little brother. We'll name him Dylan for confidentiality purposes, when we lived together a few years back. I was a 25-year-old male and my little brother was 19. We were relaxing, playing some Halo 3 on the Xbox, smoking a bowl, just being brothers, hanging out, usual daily days off from work. It was a Saturday night in the middle of summer of 2009. We lived in a quiet neighborhood. Neighbors were just far enough apart you had privacy and they never got into your business. But we all knew each other as our parents lived in the house for years and it was our childhood home. When my parents retired, they moved off and left the house to us, so we never had to worry about a roof over our head. Now our house is at the end of a cul-de-sac with a garage door to the right, and our front door is up 4 steps to the left of the window between our garage door, but from our kitchen you can see straight out when the curtains are open. This particular night, however, would grow to haunt me and my brother to this day. After a few hardcore hours of gaming, it's like 3 in the morning. My brother would need to get up and stretch his legs and relax his hands. He went downstairs to grab some water and a snack when suddenly Dylan comes running up the stairs and locks the door, freaking the total hell out of me. I look at him, confused as fuck, barking, "Bro, what the fuck is wrong?" With a pale ghost white face, he looks at me and says, "There's a guy on the porch with his hands cupped to the window, smiling from ear to ear." Then we hear 5 knocks at the door. We froze in our tracks, backing slowly away from the door. I get under my bed and grab the machete and bat I keep under there in case I ever needed to defend myself. I watch too many zombie movies. I give the bat to Dylan, as he's taller than me and has longer arms to be more beneficial to him. We tiptoe back to the bedroom door and unlock it. We crack the door open just enough to see out of. Then suddenly the man knocks over and over and over, and before you know it, he had knocked at least 30 times, and then it just stopped. I told Dylan to grab my cell phone and dial 911. He did, and dispatch sent officers our way immediately. While on the phone, the man went around the back of our house because we heard screaming coming from the backyard. The man was there, just looking at the bedroom window with that creepy-ass smile. We stayed just out of the line of sight, peeking from the corners. Suddenly, the man takes off in full sprint and threw himself into our back door. And we holler, "Oh shit, he's trying to break in our back door," to the dispatch officer. She tells units to step it up as he's trying to make entry. We hear the sirens closing in faster and faster as the man continues to bash himself into our door. On the 3rd bash, we hear the door crash open. We stay as quiet as possible, listening to things in the kitchen being smashed to hell and the man yelling, come out, wherever you are." I whisper to dispatch that he's downstairs in the kitchen, and she tells officers he's made entry, and one unit said he was close. We ready our bat and machete as we hear footsteps creeping up the stairs. Then blue lights can be seen illuminating the house as we hear, "Police, come out with your hands up, make your presence known." The man books it down the stairs and gets tackled by an officer and handcuffed after a bit of a struggle. We came out when the officers cleared the house and made sure it was safe. The man was high on meth, just looking to rob us and get another quick fix. We're so thankful for our officer arriving when he did. We thanked him until the moment he left. He still came by from time to check on us and even played video games with us a few times. I still get nightmares of that creepy-ass smile, and to whoever you are, creepy smiley man, I hope we never meet again. This all started when I was 14, when my mom met her new boyfriend, who I'll call Ray. I remember the first time he met me and my siblings, he looked at my mom and said, "Oh, wow, didn't know you had a gang," which was a very weird thing to say since he had been on dates with my mom before and she told him exactly how many kids she had. He seemed like a normal guy at first. He was in his 40s and had 2 older sons from his last marriage who would sometimes come over for dinner, but things went wrong after he moved in. He would yell a lot and have loud arguments with my mom and throw things at her, but he would always sweet-talk his way around her afterwards, and this probably is why she didn't dump him sooner. My mom was crazy young when she had us, and she's always been a bit immature for her age, so I think it made it easier for him. But Ray found it really difficult to get along with my siblings and me. He would complain about every little thing we did wrong and quickly became very controlling and strict. But whenever we complained about how he was acting to our mom, he would accuse us of trying to ruin their relationship. This worked pretty much every time, since it would cause her to get angry and yell at us instead of him. As we got older, he stopped us from seeing friends he didn't like and wouldn't allow any friends to come over unless they had his approval first. I realized he was crazy when he picked me up from school one day, which he never did, and while driving home, he accused my sister and I of trash-talking him behind his back and claimed that he had proof. When we got home, he showed me a tape recorder and played back a recording of my sister and I complaining about him in our bedroom at night. I asked him, what the fuck, did he put recorders in our bedroom? And we had a big argument. I immediately called my mom and told her, but later found out from her that she never actually said anything about it to him, which still gets me. I made him remove all the tape recorders from our bedroom, but I'm convinced that he kept on hiding them since he would sometimes bring up conversations that my sister and I had while he wasn't around. We were so paranoid that we would whisper, and we never talked about anything private in case he somehow overheard. We were so terrified that he also hid cameras as well as tape recorders, and we would dress and undress super quickly, so if there were any cameras, he wouldn't be able to see anything. It gets me mad thinking about the fear we lived in while living there. When I was 16, I got a job at a fast food place, and Ray had a big problem with this as well. His reasoning for this was because my boyfriend at the time worked there and he believed I was just going there to mess around with him. So his way of checking on me was to come and sit in the parking lot and record me. He did this for a month. I was pretty much done at this point and moved in with my dad, who had just moved back from New Zealand. My dad was pissed when I told him about everything that had happened and he wanted to call the cops on Ray, but my mom begged him not to. They broke up a few years later over something unrelated, so thankfully I never saw him again. I'll start with my first creepy encounter, as there have been a few over the years. My friend and I walked to a payphone to call a boy in 6th grade. She didn't want her parents to know we were calling boys, so we walked to a gas station to get candy and call. On the walk back, this man in a green, dilapidated old car began driving very slowly next to us. I can remember looking at him, and he was drinking from a quart or half-gallon carton of milk, which I will never forget. We got creeped out, so we started walking faster, and he just kept along with us. We decided to run to the nearby church. It's a weekend and nighttime, and we tried the door, but they were locked. I'm grateful for that. He pulled into the parking lot, and we ran behind the fenced garbage dumpster, and he pulled right up to it. I can remember seeing the car light go through the slats. He opened the door and got out and started walking towards us. We took off running through the field that led to her house. I remember clearly wearing these black, slick, dressy flip-flops. I had to take them off to run fast. We arrived at her house and ran up to her room. We lived in a desert plateau-type setting. I looked down at my feet, and they were bloody and full of tumbleweed seeds, balls of thorns. Being young, we didn't tell. We didn't want to lose our ability to roam around at night. I think of that often, wondering if that guy hurt other kids. This is an update on 2 other events that I posted on another subreddit accompanied by a video. I attempted to write this last night a few hours after shit went down, but I have COVID and it's hit me pretty hard. A combination of that and what happened had me struggling to put it all into words. I'm still pretty unwell, confused, and shaken, so I doubt this will be written well, but I'll try my best. I just want to preface this by saying my whole household has COVID right now, and me and my partner have suffered the worst of it. He had to be taken to a hospital a couple of days ago because he was feeling so unwell, so this couldn't have happened at a worse time. I'd also like to give a heads up on the stupidity of our actions on a couple of occasions throughout this. This was not our finest hour, and if you should find yourself in this situation, I recommend you call the police immediately. I was sitting on the sofa in my living room, feeling dizzy and sorry for myself, when there was a sudden thud coming from the direction of my front room. I looked up at my partner, who was sat opposite me, and he said it was probably just the neighbors shutting their car door. That, of course, seemed perfectly plausible, so I half accepted it. But somehow the sound wasn't quite right. Moments later, there was another thud, and my partner reiterated that it was just the neighbors. By the time the third thud came, I knew fully well it was definitely not the neighbors, so I got up and walked into my front room to be met with the blurry shape of a man on the other side of my front door. I could just about make him out through the frosted glass. He looked to be the same height and stature as my son's father, and for a few seconds I wondered if it was him and he'd forgotten we were all sick. I stood there dazed and out of it when the man began to aggressively rattle the door handle. Even then I didn't snap out of my dazed state. I only really came to when he began to kick the shit out of my front door, and I shouted, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I unlocked the door and threw it open. And I shit you not, there was nobody there. In the few seconds it took me to unlock and open the door, this dude had gone. I looked down the road, and I see a man in the distance who, from what I could previously make out, appeared to be him. I could not understand how it was possible that he got halfway down my road in such a short time. By this time, my partner had come into the front room and was asking what the hell was going on. I told him, and just as he was looking at me like I was losing my damn mind, the blurry figure appeared in the glass of the front door again, not 2 feet before us, and started to go apeshit. He hit and kicked the door and house and violently rattled the handle, and all the while he didn't make a single vocalization. No swearing or grunts or effort as he was trying to get in. It was very peculiar. And again, the speed in which he'd managed to get to my front door from seeing him halfway down the road moments before was unnatural. My partner's first instincts were the same as mine. He unlocked the door and tore it open, and again, nobody was there. He looked up and down the road and saw a figure in the distance matching the one we had just seen, same shit as before. He closed the door and locked it and just stared at me with a look of utter confusion on his face, which I'm pretty sure was the expression on mine. My 16-year-old son walked in and, seeing us so perplexed, asked what was wrong. As we were partway through telling him, sudden, furious kicking and banging came at the door and house again. My partner had had enough and wanted to go out and kill this person, but by now I was a bit more alert, and I told him I'd call the police and that he was not to open the door. My partner is a tall man and built like a WWE wrestler, and he's not one for tolerating shit, but he's been struggling to breathe lately, and I was concerned the man might have a weapon. It took me a lot to convince him not to go outside. I think he finally agreed because he could see how much the idea of him having an altercation with a madman while he's so sick was making me. I called the police and told them everything. They asked me for a description, but because this man was either being seen through frosted glass or from a distance, the only thing I could give to the dispatcher was that he appeared to be between 5'8" and 5'10", and that I think he was wearing a beanie, and that I couldn't tell his race, but he didn't appear to be white. He looked mixed. I wanted to get a better look at him, but from my front window, since it's frosted glass, too, and my Ring doorbell had been off for a few days as nobody had bothered to charge it with us all being so ill. While still on the phone to the police, I went up to my bedroom, which has 2 large windows that go from the floor to the ceiling, and I looked down. He wasn't there. I hadn't even noticed he'd stopped banging. Between being sick, worrying about my family, and trying to keep my cool so that I could talk to the police and properly explain what was going on, I must have spaced out and lost track of what was actually happening. We had to endure 45 minutes of this man sporadically attacking our house. He would disappear for a few minutes and then be back again, violently kicking the door and walls without saying a word. My partner finally had enough. He chose a quiet moment to sneak out with a bat and locked the door behind him. I was so worried when I realized what he had done, but there would have been nothing I could do to get him back in at that point. He was at his limit. Nothing occurred when my partner was outside, and luckily the police came shortly after and drove up and down the street for a while. They sat in their car across from my house for some time, too, so I took this opportunity to replace the Ring battery. I'm going to have it hooked up to the electrical mains soon so that it's always running. The police didn't come and question us. Most of the questioning was done on the phone. I made 2 calls to them throughout the ordeal. But I will be contacting them again, as we think the man from last night was the same man from the video I posted with my last post. He appears to be the same height, stature, and skin tone. It all couldn't have happened at a worse time. We were all so ill. Both sets of neighbors were out for the night. We messaged them as it was all going on, and the doorbell was offline. Talk about bad luck. We are all still so confused by the speed that this man was able to get around. You'd have to have been there to believe it. There are alleyways between the houses on my street. 2 houses share one alley, and my partner thinks someone accidentally left their alley door unlocked, and this lunatic was ducking into it. But that only explains his quick disappearances. It does not explain how the hell he got up and down the road so fast. I want to say again, please never go outside and face an aggressor. Always call police first. I've been working from home for about 2 years. 3 weeks ago, I was asked to come into the office, and yesterday was my first day back working at home. We have one of those doorbell cameras, but it broke down. Since I'm home all the time, we haven't gotten around to fix it or replace it. We haven't taken it down either. I don't have a gate or anything in my house. It's just the driveway, then the door. I have a clear view of my driveway and front door from my bedroom window. At around 1 p.m., there was a knock at the door. I looked out my window and saw a man. He had a dark brown hoodie and jeans. He didn't look like he was expecting someone to open the door. He also pressed the non-working doorbell a couple times. It seemed like he was paying more attention to the street, looking around, kind of nervous. When someone knocks at my door and I don't know them, I will not answer the door. I just stay quiet until they leave. High five to social anxiety. But this time I got a weird feeling, like I had a heavy rock in my stomach and alarms going off in my head. I yelled, "Coming!" He suddenly stood up straight and looked around some more, waited a few seconds, then walked away in a hurry. I looked at him until he disappeared out of my view. This is one of those moments that your instincts kick in, and deep down you know something bad may have happened and can't stop thinking about it. This morning, my nosy neighbor, we all have that one neighbor, came by to tell me the week's gossip. It's my day off, so I was sweeping my driveway. Someone had broken into one house yesterday. Nothing was stolen, but the shower had been used, the kitchen was messy from someone cooking, the bed was unmade, and all the TVs were on. The horror was the family pet had been killed. I don't have full details on that. I don't live in a nice neighborhood. A lot of my neighbors have cameras and alarm systems for this reason. I couldn't stop thinking about this guy knocking. According to some neighbors, they saw this weird guy around the block, supposedly selling some cleaning products and supplies, but he only carried a clipboard around. I went to the neighbors that live across the street from me. I know they have cameras, and I was hoping maybe they caught something. So for 3 days, this guy had knocked on my door at the same time every day. I guess his MO was to make sure no one was home all week, then break in. What would have happened if I had stayed quiet like I normally do when someone unknown knocks at my door? He would have probably come in with me in the house. It creeps me out. When I was walking back into my house, my doorbell caught my attention. It was full of some gunky, sticky stuff, like someone attempted to cover the camera. Guess I should definitely replace that. There's talks of some neighbors having video evidence. Others say they actually saw this guy. It's all still going on. I'm sure I'll know more about it the next few days. I'm feeling super anxious, thinking of going on a trip to visit my family just to get away for a bit. I don't live in the U.S., so the way police handle matters here is different. Update. The family pet was a large dog. Neighbors say he started barking loudly at some point during the day, then suddenly stopped, so that may be the reason why he killed him. There haven't been any arrests or progress. Hello, my Vickies. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and you haven't subscribed already, please do, and hit the like button, as it's very helpful to my growth here on YouTube. I'm so excited about how fast my channel is growing, and that's all thanks to you subscribers, so thank you again. If you have a suggestion or just want to say hello, please leave a comment below. I really do appreciate all the comments. If you have a story of your own you'd like to share and possibly have read on the channel, send it to me at veronica45stories@gmail.com. Link is also in the description, as are other ways to support the channel if you feel so inclined. I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday by 5 p.m. Pacific. Thanks again so much for being here. I appreciate it beyond measure. And until next time, be good.